Alright, so we got the dub through Resignation. Nice little win, just started taking them apart piece by piece. So this is the position we were in when he resigned. I am up 6 and he just moved his rook into the danger of my knight, and it just slowly would have ended badly. So I was pretty happy with this. So let's go to the beginning and see how it started. He was white, so he started first, and I just matched what he gave me. Have my queen protecting my pawn. So if his pawn takes that, I'll just take his pawn, and it'll be a pretty clean board with my queen out in the open if he were to do that. But he moves his pawn up. So the smart thing to do here would be for me to get my bishop over to f5 so I could put my pawn on e7 up to e6. So that pawn on d5 is protected without my queen. And now my bishop on f5 is free to, at least on the left side of the board, do what it needs to do. So I like getting that outside first, and he brings out his pawn to protect his pawn on e5, which is a smart move. And as you see, he's like on my side of the board, right? So that's a good way to start, but I have gotten used to getting past people getting to my side of the board by just getting my bishop out and then setting things up that way. So I move my pawn out, as I said before, and now he brings out his knight to protect e5 and d4. So it's a pretty basic move right there. So what I do is I pin his knight to his queen. I like to do that because sometimes people forget and move their knight, and I want him to start either making a move with his pawns on the left side, trying to get my bishop out of there, or castling, or just moving pieces in place to stop that pinning. So he moves his pawn out to c4. I assume that he either wants to take my pawn on d5 or move his pawn up to c5, so he can have now 2 pawns on my side of the board. So my counteraction, I'm not too worried about that, and I just decide to start moving my pieces out and taking control of the board as well, and putting that d4 square not really in danger, but having something covering it. So that's just a smart opening and setting up move by me. And of course, yeah, he wants to bring his bishop out to protect that, so he's not protecting it with his queen. Because let's say he doesn't have that bishop there, and I take his knight on f3, and then he takes my bishop with his queen, then that pawn on d4 of his would be weak. Or he would have to take my bishop with his pawn on g2, and that would mess up his chance of a castle on the side he probably wants a castle on. So that's why he moves that bishop out there, and I now put his king in check to make him do something, right? He can move his bishop back to d2, or he could put his knight on c3, or d2, which is what he does. So I'm fine with that. But the good thing about this is that when I take his knight on d2, he could take with his king, he could take with his queen. But if he takes with his queen, now I'm going to take his knight on f3 and mess up his castle, because he would have to take with his pawn on g2. So that's not ideal for him. So he could also take with his bishop going back, his bishop on e3 going back to d2. But that would also leave his pawn on d4 exposed once I take his knight on f3, which is he could clearly see I'm going to do that, so that's what I did. So I took his knight on d2. He takes with his queen, so now that's my chance to take his knight on f3, and then he has to take with his pawn and open up that castle. And now I guess he could castle on the right side, but he only has 2 pawns, and just really messed him up. So that's a smart move by me. And now I attack with my queen and apply some pressure to that open side. It's not really doing anything. It's just all it really is applying pressure. So he takes with that pawn, which I kind of thought he was gonna do, but I just take with my pawn that was protecting it, and still in a pretty good position. I can choose to castle on whatever side I would like to. So I'm still in a good position because he doesn't really know what I want to do. Because what a lot of times people do is they see where you're going to castle and then start attacking the castle. So I like waiting. So now he, because the castle is more readily available on the right side, he wants to mess that up, because if I castle on the right side and then he takes that knight, I have to take the knight on, if he takes that knight on c6, I have to take with my pawn on b7, and then that would open up my castle too. So my response to that is I'll put my knight out. So if he takes my knight on c6, I can just put my knight back there, take his pawn, put my knight on e7 over to c6, and it's like nothing ever happened, and now I can castle on the left side. So I'm set up pretty good right here. So he castles onto his side with 2 pawns, and he's gonna try to do this thing where he has where he tries to trap my queen, but that just doesn't work. So I castle. I decide, okay, it's a good time to castle on the left side. So whatever happens, like, I don't care what happens on the right side now. And yeah, now he tries to do the thing where he's gonna try and trap my queen by bringing his bishop. He's gonna bring his bishop down to g5 and try and, make a uncomfortable situation for me. But there's escape plans that I have. The only reason I didn't like moving my knight out to e7 was that I don't have my green diagonal free for my queen. So that's a little bit of an issue, but I consider that, and I didn't think it was too much danger. So I still moved it. And like tried to now attack his bishop on e3, because I think that needs to get out of the game. It's going to cause some issues, especially with 2 bishops. That could cause some issues. So if I have a chance, I'd probably just take it out. But it's where he tries to trap my queen. But I see an opening on that pawn on d4, because I have 2 bishops attacking it and a queen attacking it, and he only has his queen protecting it. So I just take with my queen. Now I'm up 1. He takes my queen, and then I just take with my bishop, or my knight. And this is a very good position for my knight too, because he can go to f3, and that'll be another pawn stolen. E2 would be nice, but his bishop is on b5, so that won't be able to happen, because e2 would put his king in check, and then I'd be able to take his rook on g1, but that's just not gonna happen. So he I don't really know why he brings it back to d3. Maybe he's trying to start attacking my castle, which is, yeah, I think he just wants to attack my castle with his bishops, which there's, very easy ways to get around that, especially after the queen is gone. Just the bishops is harder, but if there's a queen and bishops, it gets really tough. So I decided to take the other pawn. Now I'm up 2 after 2 moves. Or 3 moves. Took took that, so now we up 2. And just slowly getting pieces. Now he attacks my knight on f3, and I guess I missed a move here, right? Because I could have taken his pawn on e5. I didn't take that. I wanted to get rid of his bishop on g5. So I actually missed a pawn here, but that's fine because we got rid of something that could have easily caused some issues. So that's fine. But yeah, I still was able to take his pawn when I saw it. So I got rid of a danger and took the pawn I wanted to take anyway. So now I'm up 3, and just slowly gonna bring my rooks to the middle and try and get that pawn up to a queen. That pawn on a d5 up to a queen. So that's what I do. I protect my knight, and then he tries to, I call it double barrel the rooks and come down on that pawn on a g7. But all you really have to do is move the pawn out, and now the pawn on f7 is protecting the pawn on g6, and he can't really do anything about that, because if he were dumb enough to just get rid of his rook to mess up my castle, that would be yes, you would be up. He'd be losing points and for no reason. So yeah, I just decided to move my rooks to the middle and start trying to move my pawn up to get a queen. So slowly just moving it back up. This move right here, he wants to possibly take, because my pawn on g6 can't take his bishop on h5 because the rooks are over my king on that file. So even if he did take my pawn on g6, I have the knight protecting it and another pawn protecting it, so I'm not really worried about that. So I just keep moving my pawn up to try and get a queen, and once he does that, that gives me a little space to now protect against any closer movement to that space on h5, and just doing a little more protection. And now he tries to get rid of my knight on e5, so I just move it a little bit, put his king in check, and just buy a little time for myself. And that allowed me to steal his pawn on f4. And now I have a move where I'm gonna put my rook onto e1, and if he takes my rook on e1 with his rook on g1, then I have a queen, because my pawn will take his rook and become a queen. So what he does is, he understands that, so he's like, I'm not gonna let that happen. So now what I can do is I can move my pawn up to d1, and it will become a queen. Of course, he'll take that with his bishop on f3, moving it to d1, but I will move my rook up on d1, or on d8 to d1, and then at the end of the transaction, I'll be up 2. So that's what happens. I change it to a queen. He takes the queen. I take the bishop, and now I'm up 6, and just looking very good. He tries to think of something else, and after that, he just realizes he's not going to win and resigns. So good, slow, methodical, just gain a piece here, gain a piece there. And it's about gaining pieces and not losing any, right? Like gaining a piece and like making sure everything else is protected, gaining a piece for free, and just slowly winning. So I'm happy with this. It's a good win, and he was ranked higher than me, so that's the way to do it.